closer to home and learning from someone who's driving change and transformation right here in India, we're excited to hear from Krish, Director, Training and Consulting at Marg Business Transformation. Can we have a huge round of applause for Krish as he takes the stage?
Check. Check. Am I audible? Brilliant. Good morning. Many familiar faces, so lovely to see all of you. I don't have a knowledge check in my pocket. I know I threaten you guys, but you don't have it. Okay. My story, just like Scott started a few minutes back, my story into this discussion of change management starts with these messages. I was in the room, third person in a room, 12-seater conference room. I had my boss speaking with the CEO. The nature of the conversation was my boss basically saying this tech change that's coming our way, our function is not going to do it. Find another group to start with. I was with my boss and I was the tech geek in the group who could talk all languages. And I was there for moral support. I was too junior to make a whimper in that room. The CEO looked at my boss after hearing the whole story, said, well, here are the choices. Either you can struggle and grow with what's coming at you, or you can go outside and restart. Which way do you want to grow? I was taken aback. I didn't expect to hear that kind of conversation. Needless to say, so was my boss. That was a conversation stopper, if you like, not a starter. It was a stopper. Settled down the temperature in the room, as Scott said. And then we left. And as we left, my boss walked off ahead, marched off ahead. I turned around to see the CEO looking at me and he said, that was tough. That was my first experience of what does it take to be a leader of change. That was my first experience to understand that as leaders, we naturally provide choices and consequences to our organization. But it's our job to also present those choices and consequences to individuals. It's not just the town halls, but it's also those conversations. And that started me on my journey of trying to be a better leader during change. And the reason I'm calling all that out is what we heard from Scott was, what does research point us towards? What do facts point us towards? And research not coming from leaders alone. It's not coming from people who are just about rolling out the projects or owning the change budgets. This is coming from people like you and I who are doing change. That was the research part. That said, what we're going to cover during the day is conversations exploring what are practices that win. Even without formally applying a methodology, you will hear most of the leaders over here are struggling with change or succeeding with change. And we're trying to find out what are themes over here. What are things that we can take away? What are practices we can take away? It's an exploration. And I want to caution us that like all explorations, there should be a scope that binds where all we can go. The first comment I would make is we are focusing on organizational change, organizational transformation. Yes, given where AI is and given where media interpretation of AI is, we could talk socially, we can talk economically, we can talk ethically, but we are not going to do any of that. Our focus is how do such transformation take place within the organizational pyramid? Flowing from there, the second part is we are going to be reasonably agnostic to AI. I'm sure some of you are going to say, okay, which agents and which platform? Do you use Anthropic? You don't use Anthropic? I'm sure we want to go there, but we are not going there. We are also going down the path of, are we talking Gen AI? Are we talking LLMs? Are we talking embedded AI? Are we talking product AI? No, we're not going to any of those places. We are instead trying to figure out what does it take to land change. Which brings us to the third point. We are focused on how do we make this work, not possibilities. And most of the time, what you're going to hear from leaders is not opinion. They're going to talk about how we did this, how we struggled with this, where we failed at it. Why is it important for us? Because with execution comes was the tales. What were the compromises that they needed to make? What were the challenges they faced, and how did they get past? Again, that is also going to be focused on the Indian experience. We're cordoning this off in many ways, right? We want to know what happens here. What are things that you and I can go out and start doing tomorrow? And lastly, why have we said change management? Why the focus on change management? You heard Scott speak about the fact that there's a technical side of change and then there's a people side of change. We know there is a lot of thought process around the technical side of change, but that's not where we are playing. We want to know, how do we help people prepare, equip? How do we help people prepare, equip, and support for the change? That's going to be the scope of our exploration for today. It's worth it at this point to start thinking a little bit of what we mean when we say transformations in India. We have been here. We've been here many times in different types of transformation. So what themes that we already are aware of? Anything you touch in India is going to be large. It's going to be big. It's going to be mixed. It's going to be diverse. One size is seldom going to fit. We have to fine-tune. We have to customize. What you do in one part of the organization, in one function, in one area will not be the same as you do elsewhere. And that is usually coupled with the fact that everyone you talk to is busy because everything around them is growing. The problems are growing. The opportunities are growing. Vendors are growing. Customers are growing. Stakeholders are growing. Amount of work coming my way is growing. From a very middle-class perspective, EMIs are growing. So everything's growing. In that context, when we try to insert change, it's worth it to again keep in mind that, again, it's important for us not to celebrate individual genius alone. No matter how much of power-packed power user groups you have, super user groups you have, you still have to make entire teams adopt ways of work for it to stick. It's not going to happen just because you sprinkled a few of those change agents and made them work. We have to think functionally. We have to think in terms of value streams. We also have to keep in mind that because of all this and because of how busy our leaders are during change, when I say leaders, I mean leaders, managers, employees, everyone is during change, you're not going to have any hearing to anything abstract. People who would like to know specifics, which often means that you're going to face much of your pushback, questions, challenges at the time of implementation. Till you actually have something working to take to people, you're not going to pay attention. Some more things perhaps worth keeping in mind in an Indian context is you will find leaders ready to delegate. And when I say delegate, I don't mean just downwards, even sidewards. Leaders will delegate to functions. You started this change, you own the change. You can talk to my team, but I got other things to do. Not only do the leaders like to delegate, managers are definitely the middle of the sandwich, and they do face a lot of flack. Whether they are empowered or not, they are treated as being accountable. No judgments here. I'm just calling out what happens in many of our changes in this part of the world. Continuing from there, keep in mind that in most contexts, speaking up is difficult. And when I say speaking up is difficult, I mean speaking up is difficult. Speaking up is also difficult. Doesn't come easy. The diffusion curve, the hope that we have around the diffusion curve, the hope that we have, okay, there are going to be early adopters, and the early adopters will then make the magic happen. Again, doesn't apply. It doesn't apply in a busy environment. It doesn't apply in a growing environment. It definitely doesn't apply in an environment where managers and employees are both coming into the organization at the same time. It doesn't apply when there is an asymmetry between the amount of organizational savvy a manager has and the amount of understanding an employee has. So in all those contexts, your diffusion curves are not something you can bet on, or at least they can't be bet on alone. Which also makes me come to another point that's very sad. We are very POC and pilot happy. At any point in time, we'll have a zillion POCs and pilots happening. And some of them exist in POCs and pilots only until further notice. So, thank you. Keep in mind that those eternal POCs and pilots are a way in which your project is going to slow down. In the nicest way possible, your proofs of concept are not proving anything to anyone. These were not meant to be challenges or solutions. These are just observations. I think it's worth it then to ask, all right, Krish, we get this part. why are we talking about AI? Isn't this a lot more talk, a lot more hype? Where is the real AI happening? Is it happening? Is it just something that people are working themselves up towards, or is it actually happening in practice? Well, our experience on AI at this point is number one, it is happening. We are seeing the primary hook, the primary interest in organizations coming into the AI storyline is real-time information decision making. In my opinion, there hasn't been a better way to interact with enterprise information till AI came along. Not the Tableau dashboards, not BI, not the other things that we have seen. This has suddenly made enterprise information so much more accessible, which makes decision making so much more. So, two hooks are those. And then the third hook, which I call I would, which is I will also have one of that. Where your average leader is going to a conference and going to X and Y and Z place and saying, you know what, hey, they got AI, I want to have one of that too. So yes, that is also a factor. How is this coming into organizations? Well, interestingly, we are seeing a lot more patterns of vendor-led AI injection. The technology platform I'm using has an AI component to it, so it becomes natural for the organization to lean into it. And the other place it's happening from is product R&D. And it's making a difference. And you'll find many product heads saying, hey, we already had AI before you guys were making a lot of fuss about it. The third place is internal LLMs. Again, like I said, it's an easiest way for the organization to learn as compared to the blogs we used to have, the intranet blogs we used to have. This becomes far easier way for employees to talk with organizational documentation, with organizational case studies. We're also seeing that this is not happening at an ancillary function level. This is not about billing being better, costs and expenses. It is eventually about costs and expenses being better, but the functional usage is happening with the core functions. You're having sales use it, you're seeing operations using, you're seeing R&D use it. So this is touching the organization exactly where money is made. And it's also touching the organization perhaps where the ways of work are possibly the most set. It is an interesting place to be in. It's also worth keeping in mind that AI is, again, saying all this from an Indian context, it's touching a lot of places where the industries thrive on scale. This is not the culinary industries and it is not about think tanks and this is not about research organizations alone. This is primary industries. This is mining. This is logistics. This is manufacturing. This is public sector. We are seeing AI implementations in sectors where scale is a key factor in organizational success. We're also seeing it in FMCG, retail, where you need to get your customers really, really soon, which means all of a sudden organizations are having very interesting conversations with their distribution network. It is not just the vendors and supply chain anymore in the game. It's healthcare, and of course, it's GCC and GBS, and I'll talk about that a little later. Finally, there is a growing understanding that this is all about not just users stepping up and having something provided on their laptop and doing work. It's about proficient adopters. It's about people being good at doing what they're doing. Again, I'm going to speak a little bit more about it. Because there are a few myths probably worth bursting. Number one, there is a thought process that says people will catch up soon. But with AI, we're finding knowledge obsolescence like that. About 30 days back, you would have seen zillion courses on different platforms speaking about prompt expertise. Are they as useful now? Is it as important now? 2 months back, maybe you got some mastery over which platforms to run, which models to run, which combinations to run. Is that relevant now? I'm asking as an employee. 3 weeks back, you found out that your organization has this treasure trove of information, which has suddenly got connected to the LLM. Is it as important now? There are some big shifts happening. Organizations that are data dry in some places suddenly are finding a way to take that data and connect it to decision making. But beyond that, the knowledge obsolescence rate is just too high. If you miss the bus now, then 3 months later, what you're going to experience from an AI perspective, you, the employee, what you're going to experience is going to be very different. So people will catch up eventually, unlikely to work. Second part, if we say that, well, leaders will take control of it, there are two problems. One is saturation. Every leader is having many kinds of change besides AI sitting on their lap. They got tons of things to do. The business leaders are still falling into the trap of, I'm busy and I'll get to it. In the meanwhile, can you take my two best guys and get the job done? Also, in the meanwhile, ownership is a challenge. Who owns the transformation success? And I'm generalizing. I'm not saying AI alone. Think transformation. Think about all the big changes you've been doing. I'm not asking who's responsible for it. I'm not asking who's accountable for it. Those are easy answers to give. But who owns it? And interestingly, the organization speaks when it doesn't get owned by anyone. Then go live happens, at which some poor middle manager is going to be pulled up saying, hey, why aren't your KPIs improved? So again, keep in mind that assuming that functional leaders know what to do with AI is a big question mark. Keep in mind that the technology teams may not have the time, the support, or even the budget for them to take the AI story into different business units. That's a reality. Third part of the story is the assumption that, well, I've made a large organization. This is not a large AI project. Let me just introduce it, POC pilot. Let me just start it and let's run it. Again, we are seeing failures happen at any size of the organizations. MSMEs are getting hit as much as big organizations. A GBS center that's small gets as badly hit as a GBS center that's large. Same applies for manufacturing, same applies for retail, same applies for healthcare, same applies for many of the industries I've been speaking about. So again, this is not about size. And the last comment is, it's not about size because this time your business outcomes are directly connected to adoption. Now, to take you to what I mean over there, this is a tweet that turned up some time back by an AI practitioner, saying sometimes in the process of writing a good enough prompt for ChatGPT, I end up solving my own problem without even needing to submit it. I think that's a beautiful comment because it tells you a little bit of what is this change we are talking about. This change is not push a button and magically your report is going to appear that you print out and you take it off somewhere. This is different. This needs people to engage with this platform that we're giving them. It needs them to think with it. It needs them to work with it because, well, yes, we all know we are the algorithm in many ways, but guess what? We are also the training data. It's what we ask it, how we ask it, the context we provide to it that makes the AI give us better solutions. So each time we are molding a better solution, it's a back and forth that happens. Just to prove the point that reflect in general on the internet is a dangerous game, the response to that tweet was, well, I can imagine the person saying, bros just discovered thinking. I can imagine that, but that is a fact. You are thinking with this platform. Technology is not behaving like technology anymore. It's not remote anymore. It's right next to you and it's talking to you. And it takes some getting used to. And that's what we are meaning by saying adoption-driven business outcomes. This is different. It needs to be differently. And it is for that reason we said, let's have this conversation that balances these two storylines. One storyline saying, I want to integrate AI into my products, into my operations, into my service. And the other storyline being, how do I get people ready for it? To guide us through this, we have, of course, the first panel that is telling us what's been their experience as leaders. It's not about a particular domain. It's not about a particular industry. It's not about a particular kind of technology. It's just asking the question, what does this mean to be a leader of transformation when it is AI in the game? As you're starting with that broader perspective, we're also going to end with a similarly broad perspective. What does it mean for my organization at this point in time to go through this change? And this is why it's CHROs over here, because I don't know if you guys have noticed it, for quite some time now, CHROs are also our COOs. It happened quietly from the time we started saying it's about talent acquisition, but it was not about talent acquisition. It was about growing your organization. CHROs have and unfortunately, a ringside view. I'm saying unfortunately because sometimes they don't have the mandate to do something about it. And those are threads we're going to pull on. We are inviting CHROs to give us a perspective on where are we going wrong or what are the opportunities over here? Who needs to be to the list? If those are the bookends, then the meat of the conversation today is in the middle too. I find the GBS sector a very interesting sector. I find leaders in the GBS sector very interesting because guess what? When you're in a GBS center and you're in a shared services center, your customers are your stakeholders. Your customers are your shareholders. Your customers are your regulators. Your customers, in many cases, are your vendors. It's an incredibly difficult world to play in. And we're going to get insights from leaders in that sector to tell us, how does this play for them? Similarly, manufacturing is extremely interesting because you have an environment where every customer expects every product that you deliver to be exactly the same as the last product while you keep innovating. Which means internally, I'm supposed to be sitting there making sure every process has zero variability while I change the way my product functions or even the products I have. That's what we have for you. We have conversations from where the action is. We started with this quote, organizations don't change, individuals do. Keep those in mind as we hear from our leaders and learn from them. Thank you.